What if the reason your life feels heavy is not because you are behind, but because you are giving your mind to everything except yourself? Think about it. Every day you explain, defend, reply, prove, react, scroll, compare, and carry things that were never yours to carry. And slowly, without noticing, you become tired in a way sleep cannot fix. But here is the strange truth. The moment you stop chasing every voice outside you, something inside you begins to wake up. The moment you become quieter, life starts speaking in a different language. You see people more clearly. You see yourself more clearly. The pressure drops, the noise fades, and what once looked confusing begins to sort itself out. Stay with me because this may change the way you move through the world. If you have been feeling pulled in too many directions, if your energy feels scattered, if your heart feels tired for no clear reason, this is for you. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop performing, stop over explaining, and turn your attention back to your own inner ground. It does not happen all at once. It happens quietly. But once it begins, it can change everything. There is something almost invisible happening in most social situations. Many people speak not because they are clear, but because they are afraid of being misunderstood, ignored, or seen as weak. They explain too much. They defend simple choices. They rush to prove they are smart, kind, right, worthy. But if you look closely, a lot of that talking does not come from peace. It comes from pressure. It comes from the image we feel we must protect. In daily life, we all wear a social face. It helps us move through the world. You do not act the same with family, friends, strangers, and co-workers. That is normal. But the trouble begins when the role becomes stronger than the real person behind it. Then life starts to feel like a performance. You are not simply living, you are managing how you appear. You post something and keep checking who noticed. Someone disagrees and your body tightens. You want to answer, not because the topic matters so much, but because your image feels touched. And that is where silence becomes powerful. When you do not answer right away, when you do not rush to explain yourself, you pull energy back from that false pressure. You create space. And in that space, you begin to see something important. A lot of the weight you carried was never coming from the world itself. It was coming from the effort of trying to control how the world sees you. That realization alone can make the mind feel lighter. Silence changes the whole rhythm of your inner life. In an argument, for example, your first impulse may be to fire back, to correct the other person, to protect your side. But if you pause, even for a few seconds, you begin to notice what is really happening. Heat in the chest, tightness in the jaw, thoughts racing to build the perfect response, the need to win, the need to look strong. And if you stay still long enough, many of the words you were about to say suddenly lose their power. They no longer feel necessary. They feel like reflexes. This is why quiet people often carry a different kind of presence. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they are not wasting themselves on every small moment. They listen more. They observe more. They speak when it matters. And because of that, their words land with more force. Think about the people who always feel the need to fill every silence. Often they are not confident. They are uncomfortable. But the person who can stay calm in silence has already stepped outside the constant need to prove themselves. That creates a kind of quiet strength. And here is the deeper part. When you stop rushing to protect your image, you begin to hear deeper questions that noise normally covers up. What do I actually want? Why did this hurt me so much? Am I reacting because it matters or because I'm afraid of judgment? Do I really need to explain this? These questions do not appear in the middle of noise. They appear in stillness. That is why silence is not weakness. It is a doorway. And once that doorway opens, another part of you begins to speak. This is the part many people spend years avoiding. The part that only appears when the room is quiet, when the phone is off, when there is no one to distract you from yourself. A lot of people say they want peace, but the truth is they fear silence because silence brings them face to face with what they have buried: old anger, old shame, old fear, envy, regret, unspoken hurt. The emotions that were pushed down because they did not match the image of being good, strong, calm, or in control. During busy days, these things stay hidden under tasks, conversations, entertainment, and noise. But when everything slows down, they begin to rise. And that can feel uncomfortable, sometimes even frightening. Yet that discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is often a sign that something honest is happening. The parts of you that were ignored are finally asking to be seen. Many people try to escape that moment. They turn on music, they open another app, they text someone, they do anything to avoid hearing themselves. But if you stay there, if you let the silence remain for a little longer, you begin to understand your inner world in a way noise never allows. You begin to see that the emotions you judged are not monsters. They are messages. They are parts of you that were never fully understood. And the moment they are seen clearly, they start losing their hidden control over your life. This next part matters because many life patterns begin right here. A person may look calm for years and still carry deep anger underneath. A person may seem kind and easy to be around, but inside they may be full of resentment because they never learned how to say no. A person may appear confident, yet secretly live in fear of rejection and failure. These hidden parts do not disappear just because we ignore them. They sink lower, they collect pressure, and later they show up in ways that seem sudden: an explosion, a breakdown, a strange sadness, an unhealthy attachment, a pattern of pushing away good things. But these reactions rarely come from nowhere. They come from what has been stored too long in the dark. This is why silence can become a mirror. Not a flattering mirror, an honest one. When you sit with yourself long enough, memories return, old scenes replay, certain faces come to mind, a sentence you still regret, a wound you pretend no longer matters. At first, you may want to turn away, but if you are brave enough to stay, you start seeing the hidden logic of your life. You understand why some things trigger you so deeply, why certain people drain you, why you keep choosing what hurts you. And from there, healing can begin. Not fake healing, not pretty words, real healing. The kind that starts when you stop pretending you are only light and finally admit you also carry darkness, weakness, confusion, and unmet needs. The strange beauty of this is that when you stop hiding from your inner darkness, it becomes less dangerous. It stops controlling you from behind the curtain. What is seen clearly can be handled wisely. What is buried blindly rules your life without permission. There is a kind of freedom that only comes when you stop fighting yourself. Not when every problem is solved, not when every fear disappears, but when you can say honestly, this is also part of me and I am willing to understand it. That is when inner energy stops being wasted on constant resistance. Many people are exhausted not only because of what happens around them, but because of the private war happening inside them. One part wants to look good, another part is hurt. One part wants peace, another part wants revenge. One part wants love, another part fears closeness. And because these parts are never faced directly, they keep pulling the person in different directions. Silence begins to bring those scattered parts into view. It lets you notice what you feel before it turns into behavior. It helps you catch the ache before it becomes anger, the fear before it becomes control, the sadness before it becomes numbness. This kind of awareness creates real strength. Not the strength of someone who appears perfect, but the strength of someone who knows themselves well enough not to be ruled by every passing emotion. And once you begin seeing yourself more honestly, another shift happens. Your energy starts coming back. The force that was leaking into image, drama, proving, pleasing, hiding, and reacting begins to return to its center. This is where life starts to feel different, not louder, clearer. You do not become cold. You do not stop caring. You simply stop giving your life away in pieces. And that changes more than people realize. Because the person who has their energy with them moves through the world in a completely different way. Most people think exhaustion comes only from work, but often the deepest tiredness comes from scattered attention. Your mind is in too many places at once. One part of you is worried about what someone thinks. Another part is solving someone else's problem. Another part is replaying yesterday. Another part is imagining tomorrow. Add in messages, notifications, opinions, family needs, emotional pressure, and endless comparison. And it becomes clear why so many people feel drained before the day even ends. When your energy keeps flowing outward, you slowly lose contact with your own center. You become available to everything except yourself. You answer every call, hold every emotion, fix every problem, and listen to everyone. Yet you cannot answer one simple question: how do I actually feel right now? That is where the turning point begins. The moment you stop and ask whether you truly have the energy to keep carrying what is in front of you. The moment you realize that caring about others does not mean abandoning yourself. The moment you understand that not every demand deserves a piece of your mind. When you begin to pull your attention back, your life force returns with it. Thoughts become less foggy. Your body feels less tense. You start noticing how many things were taken from you without giving anything back. And the relief is immediate, even if small at first. A few minutes of stillness, a delayed reply, a boundary spoken calmly, a choice not to enter someone else's chaos. These look like small acts from the outside. Inside, they are massive. They are how a person begins to reclaim their own life. And once that energy starts returning, everything that follows becomes stronger. When your energy comes back to you, the mind starts to settle. It is like muddy water becoming still enough for the bottom to appear. At first, what returns is not some grand wisdom, it is simple clarity. You know what you feel. You know what you do not want. You know which conversations leave you hollow and which ones leave you alive. You notice which habits pull you away from yourself and which ones return you to your own ground. This is a powerful change because most people do not fail from lack of talent. They fail from living too far from their center. They spend years reacting instead of choosing, pleasing instead of building, explaining instead of becoming. But once your energy is no longer leaking in every direction, your actions gain force. Work improves because your attention is not broken into fragments. Decisions become easier because you are not trying to satisfy every voice around you. Your presence changes too. People feel it even if you say less. There is a steadiness in someone who is no longer scattered. Their kindness feels cleaner because it is not mixed with desperation. Their silence feels stronger because it is not fear. Their no feels calm. Their yes feels real. They are still generous, still caring, still human, but they give from a full place instead of from depletion. And that changes relationships in a deep way. Some people will respect you more. Some will pull away because they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Let that happen. Not everyone belongs in the next version of your life. Sometimes losing access to the wrong things is how the right path begins to open. And what opens after that goes even deeper than better boundaries or better focus. Once the noise drops and your energy returns, you begin to feel the depth of your inner world in a new way. This is where many people stop too early. They enjoy the relief of being less reactive, but they do not go further. Yet there is another level waiting beyond that first calm, a deeper silence, a more honest focus, a place inside you that is not built from roles, opinions, or survival habits, but from something more real. Most people rarely touch it because modern life keeps the mind moving all the time. Screens, news, endless content, constant talk, endless urgency. The surface of the mind never gets a chance to rest. But when it does rest, even briefly, another kind of intelligence begins to appear. Old patterns connect, memories take on new meaning. You see how one wound shaped 10 choices. You see how one fear trained your whole personality to stay small. You see how one longing has been guiding you for years. This is not fantasy. This is what happens when attention goes inward long enough for the hidden structure of your life to reveal itself. You do not need a mountain retreat for this. Sometimes it begins with 5 quiet minutes after everyone is asleep. Sometimes it begins with sitting in the dark without grabbing your phone. Sometimes it begins with writing one honest page before bed. Small doors, but they open into large rooms. And once you enter those rooms, your relationship with life changes. You stop looking only for quick relief. You start looking for truth. Not comfortable truth, real truth. The kind that reorganizes you from the inside out. There is a reason the deepest answers usually come when everything becomes quiet. A person may search outside for years, gathering advice, reading opinions, asking everyone what to do, yet still feel lost. Then one evening, alone and still, something becomes clear in a single moment. Not because new information arrived, but because the noise finally stepped aside. When that happens, you begin to understand that wisdom is not always something added to you. Often it is something uncovered. It was already there, buried under pressure, fear, and distraction. In that inner quiet, you may suddenly realize that a path you are forcing is not yours, that a relationship you are trying to save has already ended in your heart, that a dream you almost gave up on is still alive, that your body has been telling you the truth long before your mind was ready to hear it. These moments are powerful because they are clean. They do not come from panic. They do not come from social pressure. They rise from a deeper place. And once you begin trusting that place, your life gains a new kind of direction. You stop chasing every shiny thing. You stop fearing every opinion. You become less easy to shake because your decisions are no longer built only on outside approval. They are rooted in something quieter and stronger. This is what gives a person weight, not loud confidence, inner alignment. The feeling that your actions match your deeper truth. And from there, your outer world begins to respond differently. You notice it first in small ways, then in larger ones. Then one day you realize your life is no longer moving with the same confusion it once did. This is the part that feels almost mysterious. When you become quieter inside, the outside world often starts to rearrange itself. Things that once felt tangled begin to separate. Draining relationships lose their grip. Unclear choices become obvious. The right opportunity seems to appear at the right moment. A conversation you needed finally happens. A door opens after months of silence. From the outside, people may call it luck or timing, but often it is the natural result of inner order. When you are no longer distracted by every passing noise, you begin to notice what was always there. Paths become visible. Patterns become visible. People reveal themselves more clearly. Think of how, once you focus on something, you start seeing it everywhere. It was always present. Your attention simply was not tuned to it. Life works in much the same way. When your mind is chaotic, you miss what matters. You choose from panic. You cling to what is familiar. But when your inner world becomes clear, you naturally move toward what matches that clarity. This does not mean life becomes perfect. It means your connection to it becomes cleaner. You stop creating extra confusion through overreaction and fear. You stop staying where your spirit is shrinking. You stop calling misalignment destiny. And because of that, life starts flowing with less resistance. Not because you control every wave, but because you are no longer fighting your own direction. This shift is quiet, but it is powerful. And once you feel it, you never really forget it. You understand that the outer mess was often reflecting an inner split. Many people try to change their life by changing appearances first. They try to look more confident, sound more positive, seem more certain, post the right image, say the right things. But if inside there is still chaos, fear, and disconnection, that deeper state keeps shaping everything. You cannot build a steady life on an unstable center. So when life feels messy, the answer is not always to do more. Sometimes it is to stop, to become still long enough to notice where you have drifted from yourself, to ask what you keep saying yes to that your soul keeps saying no to notice what role you are still playing long after it stopped being true. This takes courage because silence removes excuses. It shows you where you betray yourself. It shows you where you keep waiting to be chosen instead of choosing your own path. But it also shows you something beautiful. It shows you that you do not have to force every change from the outside. Once your inner state shifts, many outer changes begin naturally. You leave what no longer fits. You protect your attention better. You feel less need to convince people. You create more than you explain. You become slower to react and faster to understand. And the world responds to that version of you differently. Not because you became someone fake and polished, but because you became more whole. This is why some of the biggest turning points in life look simple from the outside. A quiet no, a pause before reacting, a night spent in honest reflection, a decision to stop chasing. These small moments do not look dramatic, but they redirect entire futures. Watch this closely in your own life, because this is where real change often begins. And if you stay on this path, another gift appears: peace. Not perfect peace, not a life without challenge, pain, or uncertainty, but a deeper peace that comes from no longer being divided against yourself. You wake up with less inner noise. You stop carrying conversations in your head for hours. You stop building your identity from what others approve. You stop feeling pulled to defend every truth you know inside. You understand that not every misunderstanding needs correction. Not every opinion needs your reaction. Not every invitation deserves your energy. This is where maturity becomes visible. You are no longer impressed by noise, including your own. You begin to value what is grounded, what is real, what lasts. Your circle may become smaller. Your words may become fewer. Your choices may become more precise. And strangely, your life may become richer at the same time. Because when your energy is no longer scattered, it can finally go into what matters: your work, your healing, your craft, your family, your body, your purpose, your faith, your peace. This is not about hiding from the world. It is about entering the world without losing yourself in it. That is a completely different way of living, and people can feel the difference. You become harder to manipulate because you know your weak spots, harder to distract because you know your direction, harder to shake because your value is no longer hanging in every passing opinion. This is the kind of strength that does not need to announce itself. It simply stands, quietly, clearly, fully. And because it stands, life begins to organize itself around it. So if your life has felt off lately, do not rush to force answers. Do not panic and run harder into noise. Do not assume the solution is more explanation, more effort, more control. Sometimes the deeper answer is much simpler and much harder at the same time. Stop. Sit still. Pull your attention back from everyone and everything for a moment. Let the silence become uncomfortable if it needs to. Let the hidden thoughts rise. Let the truth catch up with you. Listen to what your exhaustion has been trying to say. Listen to what your reactions reveal. Listen to the parts of yourself that only speak when the world finally gets quiet. Because that is where your real life begins again. Not in performance, not in proving, not in endless reaction. In presence, in honesty, in inward steadiness. And when that steadiness returns, you will notice something beautiful. What is not meant for you starts to fall away without so much struggle. What is truly yours begins to come closer. Your path becomes less noisy, less crowded, less forced. You breathe differently. You decide differently. You live differently. The world may still be loud, but you are no longer built from that noise. You are built from something deeper. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself to everyone, pause. The next time you want to react instantly, pause. The next time you feel lost, instead of reaching outward first, turn inward. Stay there long enough. Because when you focus on yourself and become truly quiet, life has a strange way of returning each piece to its proper place.